Did you know that Texas is home to the only wild wintering flock of whooping cranes left on Earth? And that without a single patch of Texas coastline, the species would simply cease to exist? Or that there is a place in the Texas Panhandle where humans have been mining stone tools for over 13,000 years, making it one of the longest continuously used quarry sites in all of North America? Or that the very name Texas does not come from Spanish or English at all, but from an ancient Native American word so simple it will completely change how you feel about the state? Texas is bigger, older, and stranger than most people imagine. So buckle up, because we are about to reveal 50 insane facts about Texas that you probably never knew. Fact 50. The name Texas means friend. Before Texas was a republic or a state, the Caddo people who lived in East Texas used a word as a greeting, Taisha, meaning friend or ally. When Spanish explorers arrived and asked what to call the land, the Caddo offered that word. The Spanish wrote it as Tejas. Every time someone says the name of the state, they are unknowingly saying hello to a civilization that thrived here thousands of years before any Europeans set foot on the soil. Fact 49. Texas has more bird species than any other state in America. Over 650 species have been documented within its borders, and it is not even close. Texas sits at the crossing point of four major migratory flyways, its landscapes ranging from Gulf Coast marshes to mountain sky islands to desert scrub. The result is a biological funnel where birds from North America, Central America, and the Caribbean all converge in the same stretch of land, creating a spectacle that draws serious birders with the same intensity that Vegas draws gamblers. Fact 48. Big Bend National Park is bigger than the state of Rhode Island. The park covers more than 800,000 acres of mountains, desert, and canyon country in the far southwest corner of Texas. It contains the largest protected stretch of the Chihuahuan Desert in the United States, and yet it receives fewer visitors than almost any other major national park in the country. It is one of the most spectacular places in America that most Americans will never see. Fact 47. The Llano Estacado is one of the flattest large land masses in the Western Hemisphere. Spanish explorers named it the Staked Plains because the terrain was so relentlessly uniform they reportedly drove stakes into the ground just to navigate across it. There are no hills, no valleys, and almost no visual reference points. Standing in the middle, the horizon forms a perfect circle around you, and the earth and sky feel equally enormous. Fact 46. Big Bend has more bird species than any other national park in the United States. Over 450 species have been recorded within its boundaries. The park rises from desert scrubland at the Rio Grande all the way to the Chisos Mountains above 7,800 feet. That vertical range compresses multiple ecosystems into one, and the result is a concentrated hotspot where desert species, mountain species, and Mexican birds found nowhere else north of the border all overlap in the same stunning canyon landscape. Fact 45. The Spindletop Gusher of 1901 changed the world. On January 10th, workers drilling near Beaumont hit something nobody expected. Oil rocketed 150 feet into the sky and roared out of control for 9 days. It produced more oil in a single day than all other American oil wells combined. Within months, the modern petroleum industry was born. Gasoline became affordable, and the automobile age became possible. One well in a flat Texas field rewrote the trajectory of civilization. Fact 44. Texas operates on 2 time zones. Most of the state runs on Central Time, but El Paso and the far western Trans-Pecos region run on Mountain Time. When it is noon in Dallas, it is 11 in the morning in El Paso. Travelers driving across the state on Interstate 10 cross a time zone line without any fanfare, and if they are not paying attention, they arrive an hour earlier or later than expected. Fact 43. The Alibates Flint quarries have been used continuously for 13,000 years. Hidden in the Canadian river breaks of the Texas Panhandle, these low dolomite bluffs hold a distinctive agate flint found nowhere else on Earth, swirling with bands of red, purple, pink, and white. Paleo-Indian hunters first discovered it after the last ice age. Pueblo peoples, Comanche, Kiowa, and dozens of other cultures all returned to the same bluffs, generation after generation. Alibates flint has been found at sites from the Rocky Mountains to the Mississippi River. These quarries were the ancient trade hub of half a continent. Fact 42. Texas grows more cotton than any other state. The South Plains region around Lubbock produces roughly 40 to 50% of the entire national cotton crop. But the water making it possible is running out. The Ogallala aquifer beneath the region has dropped hundreds of feet in some areas since irrigation began in earnest. The agricultural miracle of West Texas is quietly running on borrowed time. Fact 41. The Chihuahuan Desert is the largest desert in North America, and most of it belongs to Texas. Covering more than 200,000 square miles, it is larger than the Sonoran and the Mojave combined. The Texas portion occupies the entire Trans-Pecos region and is home to extraordinary biodiversity, with more species of desert plants and reptiles than almost any comparable arid region on the planet. Before we move on, please remember to subscribe and hit like so we can keep uncovering the wild geography of our beautiful country. Fact 40. Lake Texoma is one of the 12 largest reservoirs in the United States, and it straddles 2 states. Created by damming the Red River in 1944, it covers nearly 90,000 acres on the Texas-Oklahoma border. In dry years, when the region bakes under drought, this single reservoir is the difference between a functioning Dallas-Fort Worth and a water crisis. Fact 39. The Lost Pines of Bastrop are a biological island stranded in time. This dense loblolly pine forest has no business being in central Texas. The nearest natural loblolly forest is more than 100 miles to the east. These trees are a relic population from the last ice age, surviving in a specific pocket of sandy soil and local moisture after the climate warmed and the rest of the forest retreated. They are a living snapshot of an ancient Texas that no longer exists anywhere else. Fact 38. The Aransas National Wildlife Refuge is the only place on Earth where wild whooping cranes spend the winter. Every fall, the last self-sustaining wild whooping crane flock flies nearly 2,500 miles from Canada to this single stretch of Texas coastline. At their lowest point in 1941, only 15 birds survived. Today, around 500 make the journey. Remove Aransas, and the species disappears. Fact 37. Sam Rayburn Reservoir is the largest body of water lying entirely within Texas. Covering more than 114,000 acres in the lush forests of East Texas, it is one of the most productive bass fishing lakes in the South. The surrounding national forest gives it a subtropical atmosphere that feels completely different from the dry image most people carry when they think of Texas. Fact 36. The Caprock Escarpment is a geological wall that divides Texas in 2. Running roughly 200 miles across the Panhandle, this cliff face drops as much as 1,000 feet in under a mile. It is not a mountain range, but the eroded edge of the massive Llano Estacado Plateau. Cross it heading west, and the landscape transforms instantly from rolling grassland to flat, sky-wide tableland. Fact 35. Barton Springs in Austin has stayed the same temperature for thousands of years. Fed by the Edwards Aquifer, these springs emerge at a constant 68 degrees Fahrenheit regardless of season. In the summer, when Austin bakes above 100 degrees for weeks, locals have been swimming in this pool for at least 10,000 years. It is a geological constant in a city that never stops changing. Fact 34. The Balcones fault zone is where 2 completely different Texases meet. Running in an arc from Del Rio through San Antonio and Austin to Waco, the fault separates the rugged, spring-fed hill country to the west from the flat, fertile coastal plain to the east. Nearly every major spring in central Texas flows from this line, and the entire city of San Antonio sits directly on top of it. Fact 33. Seminole Canyon holds rock art older than the Egyptian pyramids. The Pecos River-style pictographs here have been dated to more than 4,000 years old, painted before the Great Pyramid of Giza was built. Some images span 30 feet across. The pigments have survived millennia of Texas heat and floods. Nobody alive today can fully read what they say. A fine scene. Fact 32. Texas has more bat species than any other state. With 32 confirmed species, it is the undisputed bat capital of America. The hill country limestone provides an almost limitless supply of caves and sinkholes for roosting. In summer, Texas bats consume hundreds of tons of insects every single night, providing natural pest control worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year to agriculture. Fact 31. The Pecos High Bridge was the highest railroad bridge in the world when it opened. Completed in 1892, it stretched 2,180 feet across a canyon nearly 300 feet deep. Passengers crossing it reportedly could not look down. The original iron span was replaced in 1944, but the view of that raw canyon dropping away beneath the tracks remains one of the most dramatic moments on any train journey in America. Fact 30. The Rio Grande sometimes fails to reach the Gulf of Mexico. By the time this 1,900-mile river reaches Brownsville, it has been drained so heavily by agriculture and cities on both sides of the border that in dry years it simply stops, ending in a sandbar a few hundred yards from the ocean. When that happens, the legally defined international boundary between the United States and Mexico disappears into dry sand. Fact 29. Tyler, Texas holds the largest municipal rose garden on Earth. The deep sandy soil of Smith County is nearly perfect for growing roses commercially. At peak production, Tyler supplied more than half of all rose bushes sold in the United States. Its municipal garden spans 14 acres and contains over 38,000 rose plants representing 500 varieties. The last thing most people expect to find in East Texas is the rose capital of the world. Fact 28. The geographic center of Texas is a place called Mercury. The exact midpoint of the state lies in McCulloch County, near the small community of Mercury, about 15 miles north of Brady. Most people assume the center must be somewhere dramatic. Instead, it is a quiet stretch of rolling ranch land in the middle of nowhere in particular. Brady has leaned into it anyway, calling itself the heart of Texas and hosting an annual World Championship goat cook-off. Fact 27. Texas has more farmland than any other state in the nation, roughly 127 million acres. If you took all the farmland in Iowa and doubled it, you still would not match Texas. The state produces cattle, cotton, wheat, grain sorghum, and dozens of other crops across landscapes that shift from humid East Texas bottomlands to black clay prairies to high desert plateaus. Fact 26. The Caprock Canyon's bison herd are the last descendants of the original wild southern plains bison. In the 1870s, rancher Charles Goodnight captured a small group of wild bison and began breeding them before they vanished forever. His herd became the genetic seed bank for the entire subspecies recovery. Their descendants now roam Caprock Canyon State Park. They are the closest thing to the original wild plains bison that still exists on Earth. Fact 25. Laredo is the largest inland port in the United States. Hundreds of thousands of trucks cross its international bridges every year, carrying electronics, auto parts, and agricultural products in both directions. More goods flow through this single Texas border city than through many major coastal seaports, making it one of the most economically significant locations in the country, despite rarely making the news. Fact 24. Hueco tanks hold 6,000 years of human history in its stone basins. Natural rock basins in 3 granite mountains northeast of El Paso collected rainwater and sustained life in one of the driest landscapes on the continent. The water attracted people who left their stories behind in over 3,000 pictographs covering the cave walls. Some of the most intricate Native American rock art in North America sits in this small state park that most Texans have never visited. Fact 23. Lake Amistad is an international reservoir shared equally between 2 nations, where the Rio Grande, the Pecos River, and the Devil's River all converge in far southwest Texas. A massive dam creates a reservoir administered jointly by the United States and Mexico under international treaty. Its flooded canyon landscape stretches 65 miles along the Rio Grande and hides some of the finest ancient rock art in the world, preserved just above the waterline. Fact 22. The Chisos Mountains form one of the rarest ecosystems in North America. Rising abruptly from the surrounding desert, they create their own climate. The basin sits at 5,400 feet, cool enough for forests of juniper, oak, and pine. The Colima warbler, found nowhere else in the United States, nests here and only here. In winter, the mountains receive snow, while the desert floor a few thousand feet below hits 100 degrees on the same afternoon. Fact 21. A rainfall line divides Texas almost perfectly in half. Stand on the Balcones Escarpment and look east. 30 to 50 inches of rain per year. Lush forests, green fields. Turn around and look west. Fewer than 20 inches, arid scrubland, unforgiving desert. The line between them is sharp enough to see from an airplane. One side is green, the other is brown. Fact 20. The Pecos River carved canyons over 1,000 feet deep through solid limestone. In the stretch approaching the Rio Grande, the river drops into passages so narrow and vertical they feel like wounds in the earth. Early settlers avoided this canyon country entirely. Railroad engineers in the 1880s called it one of the greatest engineering challenges in Texas, and were barely right. This wild stretch of the Pecos remains one of the most remote landscapes in the state. Fact 19. A canyon cuts through the flat Texas panhandle that almost nobody knows exists. The Canadian River has carved a valley several hundred feet deep through the surrounding flatness, filled with red rock, cedar breaks, and cottonwood groves that feel completely out of place. It is the panhandle's hidden valley, a thread of wild land invisible to anyone driving the highways above it. Fact 18. Enchanted Rock groans and pops at night and has been frightening travelers for centuries. As temperatures drop, the granite contracts and makes audible cracking sounds that carry clearly through still night air. The Tonkawa believed the sounds were spirits. Spanish explorers thought the mountain was haunted. Today we know it is simple thermodynamics, but standing on that vast silent dome at midnight while it moans beneath your feet, the scientific explanation feels less than satisfying. Fact 17. The lost maples of the Sabinal Canyon are a biological time capsule from the Ice Age. A population of big-tooth maples survives in a narrow canyon in Bandera County, clinging to cooler, moister slopes long after the Ice Age forests that once surrounded them retreated northward. Every fall, they turn brilliant red and gold, producing one of the most unexpected autumn color displays in the entire American South. Fact 16. The Kemp's Ridley sea turtle depends on one Texas beach to survive. The world's smallest and most endangered sea turtle has one primary nesting beach, Padre Island National Seashore. In 1985, the total global nesting count had collapsed to fewer than 200 turtles. An intensive recovery program based right on that Texas beach has pulled the species back from the edge. The beach that matters most for its survival is a Texas one. Fact 15. The Llano uplift exposes rock that is 1.1 billion years old. In the center of Texas, a geological dome has been slowly shedding its younger rock cover for millions of years, revealing some of the oldest exposed stone in the entire state. The pink granite quarried from this region built the Texas state capitol. The rock beneath the capitol is older than almost anything else you can touch with your bare hands in America. Fact 14. There is a town in Texas called Uncertain, sitting at the edge of Caddo Lake in Harrison County, with a population of about 100. Uncertain got its name when residents could not agree on what to call their community, and a postal official reportedly wrote the word as a placeholder on the application. It stuck. Today, visitors make the trip specifically to be photographed under the sign, which sits at the edge of one of the most hauntingly beautiful lakes in the South. Fact 13. Presidio, Texas has hit 119 degrees Fahrenheit. Tucked into a narrow desert valley where surrounding mountains trap hot air and prevent night cooling, Presidio is consistently one of the hottest cities in the country. To put that record temperature in context, 119 degrees is hotter than the average summer temperature on the surface of Mars. Around 4,000 people live there anyway. Fact 12. The Muleshoe National Wildlife Refuge hosts the largest wintering sandhill crane population in the United States. Hundreds of thousands of sandhills arrive each winter from Alaska, Canada, and Siberia to rest on shallow playa lakes in the Texas High Plains. At sunset, the sky turns gray, with their circling bodies and their calls fill the air for miles in every direction. It is one of the most spectacular wildlife events in North America, happening on a flat West Texas plain that most people have never heard of. Fact 11. The Battle of Palo Duro Canyon ended the era of the free-ranging Southern Plains tribes without a major battle. In September 1874, U.S. Army troops found the winter encampment of the Comanche, Kiowa, and Cheyenne in the canyon. Rather than fight, Colonel Mackenzie ordered everything destroyed. Thousands of lodges, tons of food, and over 1,400 horses were burned or killed. With supplies gone and winter coming, the tribes had no choice but to surrender. The canyon that today draws hikers with cameras was the site where a way of life ended. Before we get to the final 10 facts, remember to subscribe and hit like so we can keep uncovering the wild geography of our beautiful country. Fact 10. Texas has more native wildflower species than any other state in the contiguous United States. Over 5,000 species grow within its borders. In a good rain year, the hill country erupts in sheets of color from March through May as dozens of species bloom simultaneously. Even the Chihuahuan Desert transforms after wet winters into vivid fields of desert marigolds and prickly pear blossoms. Texas in spring is a botanical event. Fact 9. Texas holds roughly 1 in 7 beef cattle in the entire United States. At any given time, the state has around 13 million head, more than any other state by a wide margin. The feedlots of the Texas Panhandle are among the largest in the world. And the cowboy culture born on these ranges, driving cattle up the Chisholm Trail in the 1860s and 1870s, gave the entire American West its lasting mythology. Fact 8. The Barton Creek Greenbelt in Austin exposes 100 million years of geology inside a major city. The creek has cut down through Cretaceous limestone deposited when an inland sea covered central Texas, revealing marine fossils just feet below the surface of one of the most expensive real estate markets in America. Wild canyon walls exposing tens of millions of years of history sit inside one of the fastest-growing cities in the country. Fact 7. The Edwards Aquifer can only be refilled from one specific strip of land. The primary drinking water source for more than 2 million Texans, including all of San Antonio, is replenished only where rivers cross from impermeable hill country rock onto porous limestone in a narrow band of counties roughly 1,250 square miles in total. Rain that falls anywhere else in Texas does not recharge it. What happens to that one strip of land controls San Antonio's water supply for generations. Fact 6. The Chisos Basin can be 50 degrees cooler than the desert surrounding it. On a summer afternoon, when the Big Bend floor hits 105 degrees, the basin at 5,400 feet can be 75, with afternoon thunderstorms rolling in. In winter, it receives snow while the Rio Grande floodplain below is warm enough for shirt sleeves. It is an island of temperate weather ringed by desert, supporting bears, mountain lions, and a bird found nowhere else in the country. Fact 5. The Permian Basin is one of the most productive oil fields ever found on Earth. At peak production, it pumps more oil than most OPEC member countries. The oil lies in an ancient evaporate basin formed when a shallow inland sea repeatedly evaporated over millions of years, concentrating organic material into layer after layer of petroleum-bearing rock. The recent drilling boom here made the United States the largest oil producer on the planet and reshaped global energy markets from a flat Texas desert. Fact 4. After the deadliest natural disaster in American history, Galveston raised itself. After the 1900 hurricane killed at least 8,000 people, survivors did not abandon the island. They dredged sand and pumped it beneath thousands of buildings, lifting the city as much as 17 feet in some places. Then, they built a concrete seawall 17 feet high, eventually stretching more than 10 miles. It has been tested by numerous major hurricanes since. It has never been overtopped. A city that was nearly erased chose instead to rebuild itself higher than the storm. Fact 3. The Ogallala Aquifer beneath the Texas High Plains is a one-time geological inheritance. This massive reservoir of fossil water accumulated over millions of years from ancient mountain streams. Texas farmers pump billions of gallons from it every year. In some parts of the High Plains, it has already dropped so dramatically that wells are running dry and irrigated farming is being abandoned. The Ogallala is not recharged at any meaningful rate by modern rainfall. Once it is gone, it is gone. Fact 2. Big Bend preserves 500 million years of Earth history in a single park. The oldest rocks are more than 500 million years old. The youngest volcanic features formed 20 million years ago. In between, the park holds bones of Quetzalcoatlus, a pterosaur with a 40-foot wingspan whose fossils were first discovered right here, along with sediments from an ancient sea and evidence of the massive eruptions that built the Chisos Mountains. Walking across Big Bend is walking through geologic time. Fact 1. Texas negotiated a right that no other state has ever had. When Texas joined the Union in 1845, it retained the legal right to divide itself into as many as 5 separate states without requiring congressional approval, only its own legislature. The provision was written because the Republic of Texas was so vast that Congress worried it could not be governed as a single unit. The right was reaffirmed after the Civil War. Texas has never used it, but it still exists, written into the Joint Resolution of Annexation. Texas is not just a state, it is legally a state with the right to become 5. Now that you know these 50 insane facts about Texas, tell us which one did you like the most or which one surprised you. We would love to read your opinion in the comments and see how many of us picked the same one. And if you want to keep learning the hidden stories behind America's most extraordinary places, the video on screen right now is exactly what you are looking for. But before you go, do not forget to subscribe and give it a like, otherwise we might not see each other again.